Hello everyone and welcome to Avantika Designeering Series or ADS as we like to call it. Every week on Wednesday, we feature design and technology leaders who share their professional journey, their thoughts on their domain of work, and designeering where the world of design and engineering meet. Make sure you follow us on social media, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. And with that, let's continue with your show.
The last few years have seen the rise of design thinking and similar processes that help engineers and designers to create more user centered products and services. They are great tools to spawn desirability in customers. Nevertheless, they often fall short in creating a sustainable business model. Business design is a remedy to this problem. Business design provides the tools and methods to develop and test a business model. At the same time, it makes the difference between a service that is just a marketing gimmick and one that is sustainable business. And to talk about this blended approach today, in this episode, we interact with Sudhindra Venkatesha Murthy, Chief Design Officer at IBMIX. On the canvas of digital, Sudhindra crafts positive experiences for people armed with insights, empathy, and behavioral understanding. As an experienced strategist, he helps craft vision for partners to see their worlds in action. As a design leader, he designs environments conducive to creating meaningful, game changing, and award winning designs. Sudhindra has been recognized for his work through many awards, including the Most Innovative Product Award by NIA in Singapore. And that's why, on our journey of discovering designeering, we talked to him about blending business and design. Hello, Sudhindra. Welcome to Avantika Designeering Series. It's a pleasure to host you on our show today.
Hey, thank you so much, Rohit. It's my pleasure to be joining you in this conversation.
Super. So, as an icebreaker, I wish to ask you, Sudhindra, that while your organization and role is involved in user experience domain primarily, how were you able to achieve this goal over the last 7, 8 months while mostly working from home? I mean, what was your team secret sauce to keep going? Because it involves talking to users, doing research about them. So how did it actually all seamlessly stitched together?
Yeah, it's a great question and so relevant and apt, right? Now, what has happened especially in the world of design, the user experience domain for the last 7, 8 months, from what I have seen, is some of the work was remote anyway. So we were doing some of that work, but the more high touch kind of work, the research work, the workshopping, etc., that is where we had to readjust and repivot immediately. So when we were faced with that question, we actually created a whole host of materials to allow us to do it. So since that time, we have done a lot of workshops virtually. I'm glad to say that we went live with a lot of our work as well during this time, and so on. So in the beginning, we had to sort of adjust to this new virtual workshopping way and virtual research way. So there was a lot of preparation done at the time. So actually, if you ask a secret sauce, the secret sauce is how we prepared in the beginning. The second thing is the same thing of preparation. Even when you do, say, for example, a virtual workshop for these kind of work projects, the way we prepare is what makes a difference. So I'll give you a simple example. When we used to, when we do workshops with senior clients over a day or 2 days and so on, now we had to do that over a period of 5 days, 2 hours each, because you can't sit virtually on an entire day in front of your laptop doing your mural and so on. So we had to prepare a lot more than ever before. So preparation is one of the secret sauce. The second thing is what this gave us is also a nice little platform. We call it as the iExponential, which you must have seen on the LinkedIn as well. So we're posting it. So it is a platform in which all those designers in my team, we all come together every day for the last about 8 months now. We have been coming together in the morning, 1 hour we dedicate to design talks and learning, and like master classes we go through. We do book reading together, we do a lot of things for 8 months. It's going non-stop, every day 1 hour. And that is the other thing that's going on, learning a lot. And so preparation and learning, I would say, is the sort of secret sauce for us that has taken us through these 7 8 months. And yeah, that's what is going on even now.
Wow, interesting. I think the pandemic period gave all of us an opportunity to come up with new ideas, new thought processes. In fact, Sudhindra, we started this podcast show while we were in the phase of lockdown as well. So moving on, Sudhindra, with over 17 years of industry experience and your interests include designing digital environments that shape behavior and habits and that enhance the quality of everyday life. The question that I have is, how has design helped you shape up as an individual?
A lot, I can look back over my years of experience in doing design, and I can very easily relate to the way I think. I'm able to connect those dots, which probably a lot of others struggle to do. But that is something that comes naturally. Naturally, I have a research mindset. I think of, before I do anything, I actually do some research before I go into that. Right? Naturally, it is part of that. I'm naturally empathic. I'm more empathic probably than I don't have to try that. Hey, you know what? Between 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock today, let me be more empathic. Empathic. I don't need to do that. I'm naturally more empathic. I try to understand another person's view a lot more now than ever before. Um, my storytelling capabilities have also taken an upshot. Now, use all of these different skills I've learned over a period of time in my everyday life, and I don't think I can do without it now. In terms of taking my children through their assignments, for example, I use all of these things, and I actually impart that knowledge to them as well. Um, in the other various activities, if for example you're in a family situation and where you need to do some certain thing, I advise my family members also to think from a research point of view, right? So instead of jumping into things, so trying to address the problem space more. So these things is what is has changed me and has shaped me as an individual. And I use all of these skills I've learned in the industry. I've been a design leader now. I was a design practitioner, so the leadership automatically. And when you add design as the potential into the leadership, overall leadership angle, you get a very strong and high quality leadership that comes out. And all of these are human centered, right? The first thing you think of is human centered. You don't think of doing things for things sake, or you don't jump into solutions because that's so right in front of you. You actually go back, take a step back. All of these characteristics that I use to design environments, which are probably mainly are digital, they are the same ones that I use in my own life. In fact, at this point, I must tell you, there is a beautiful book called Designing Life, which was released, I think, in 2018. So again, using the principles of design and how you can even shape your own life. So it's beautiful, and I would encourage all of us to read it as well.
Wow, interesting. I'll definitely catch up a copy of this. I think the title itself sounds very, very interesting. Sudhindra, you studied MBA and today you are the Chief Design Officer at IBM Interactive Experiences. Can you take us through your professional journey and this transition from the world of management and business to designing?
So I'm the chief design officer for IBMIX in India. So that's one thing I want to be clear on. The My professional journey, the MBA, for example, I did after I had decided to be a designer. So I was already a designer, and during that time, I wanted to learn a lot more of business side of things. So to improve my business acumen, that is why I took MBA, and I'm the better for it because one of the big things about IX is the way we could do business by design. That's our proposition. And we call ourselves and pride ourselves to be business designers. So the MBA helped me directly in becoming a business designer that I'm today. But where I started was very interesting. When I started off, many years ago, it was design was a support function. At that time, I was doing a lot of design practitioner kind of work, right? Creating screens and so on and so forth. That was very interesting. I loved doing that. You want to get your hands dirty doing all of that stuff. But I was not involved in the process. I was not employing the process of design like the way I wanted it to. I was not involved in the organization change, for example, right? No one bothered to ask me, hey, you know what? How do I redesign the HR process that we have in our organization? How do I create a continuous learning program for the employees? Nobody asked those questions. So at that time, the design was a more of a uh, the role it played was like a support function. You had great technologies, and making those technologies look good was one of the principles of design. That's about it, really. Not more than that. At least when I started, and in those organizations that I was at the time. But then I realized the power of it when I came into the contact of the design methodology that is there, that we all know very well today as design thinking. So when I came in contact of that, I was able to see the meaning of why I do what I do. I actually That was an aha moment for me when I started doing that, and that is what I even today. That's what I do. I use the first principles of design. I make sure that we follow the framework or the method of design the right way, and that's what I impart in all the people that report into me in my team, and work closely with me, the clients I work with, the stakeholders in the internally that I have, or even externally. So all I do is making sure that we unpack the design framework in the best way possible in that particular situation that they have. So, and the MBA, especially as I said, has helped me understand the markets, the business acumen that is needed to make these things, the kind of value propositions that you can create, and all of that aspects that is needed. So that's my in a journey in short, and the MBA's relevance in there.
So wow, that's interesting, Sudhindra. It's like the blended approach that we keep talking about of how you're blending the world of design, business, and technology all together in an interesting way. And I think you're quite fortunate to be having an experience and knowledge of all of these three areas, and the entire power of putting all of them together and actually leading a business organization.
Thank you, Rohit. Yeah, it is definitely a privilege to have that, and to be able to think from these different angles. Each aspect that you shared, the experience, the human centeredness, the business, as well as technology, have all grown and have had different dimensions from the time I started. So it's been great to be part of that journey and to be able to connect those dots.
Hey, did you know IBMIX is the partner at the STEM Week that engages with more than 300 educators from over 200 schools to support hands on applied learning activities for K 12 students in the United States of America. Students also learn from experts from IBM iX how to apply design thinking to their app designs. And winners of this challenge will get an opportunity to work with IBM iX designers to further their app development. Super. So, as a As a business leader, Sudhindra, can you share one of your most fulfilling experiences of designing? I mean, can you share either a problem statement or a client story, something that you worked on and you felt very happy, very it was a very interesting experience for you in your journey.
Yeah, there are a couple of them that come to my mind, Rohit. When I was doing design intervention for a bank in India, the whole proposition was to be able to create a connected experience for their employees, and a lot of those employees were not very great in English. So when I had to take them through the whole design thinking method with them, I had to do it in Kannada. They were based in Bangalore, and we had to do it in Kannada. Fortunately, I speak Kannada. That is my mother tongue. So what happened is that, and I'm not used to doing this in Kannada, by the way, right? So it is actually very difficult to get onto your local language, the concepts you learn globally. So what happened on that day was, when I started this whole, presentation of mine, the chairman said, "Hey, can you please also speak in Kannada? Does anyone know?" And I said, "Okay, let me try." And it was a very fulfilling experience, because the people that were there, they were able to understand it. The junior most people that were there, that had difficulty in understanding the sophisticated English that we sometimes get enamored in. So they were able to understand the concepts, those large big concepts which are loaded. They were able to understand in their local language, and it made a huge difference. And we were able to go through the whole. It was very interesting for me, and it was a fulfilling one, which is something I was very happy about. Now, there are other things. There are a couple of other things that I can think. That, in fact, quite a few actually. But once another time, what happened is, when I was doing a presentation with a large bank, not an Indian bank, an Australian bank. There was this person, the head of their strategy, who was there, and then I got up to tell him about our credentials, and he said, "You know what? I don't want to hear the regular spiel of what design thinking can do, for example. I want you to help me solve the problem that I have currently." He said, "Let's do a workshop now," right? That's what he actually said. And we were not prepared for it. We had gone for something else. But he said, "Why don't you take it as a challenge? And I'll give you a problem right now. Let's go and solve it." I i'm not a person who will say no to a challenge. So I said, "Yeah, let's do it." Okay. And immediately he shared a certain problem that he wanted to be solved in his organization, in one of his core functions of the organization. So I was there and listened to what he had to say, picked it up immediately, discussed with him the nuances of that problem, and then, went back, prepared something. The next day, he gave a little more time, and then, I was able to understand a little more of that particular problem. And then I traveled back to Melbourne after a week or so. Then we took him through the whole, solution that we had based on what he had shared. Now, what it did was, it is amazing, the way this happened. This was so very fulfilling, because it did not start with your regular presentations, etc. It started off as a kind of a challenge, and then when I went there, when I presented this whole solution to him, eventually a couple of months later on, what happened is, the whole conversation that we were having with this bank changed into a higher value kind of a conversation. Right? Suddenly, we became their preferred partners in what they were trying to do. He was just testing us out. He was just actually, later on, I came to know he was just trying what we can do, because he was not aware of IBM's strengths in those areas. So when I was able to share this solution approach to him, he was able to see that we suddenly became the preferred partner, from actually not being, there in his eyes at all. So that was a fantastic, fulfilling experience. The State Bank of India work that we are doing as well, again, is amazing. So we are bringing the digital aspects of the bank into into the whole of India, right? In fact, through that, we are enabling a lot of people in tier 2, tier 3 to be able to bank. And the because of the COVID, there was a lot of new launches that happened, right? The PM cares fund came about, and so on. So all of these we were able to quickly bring on to the banking platform, simply because we were all ready with the digital banking platform that is out there. So that is another fulfilling thing that I'm involved in. It is amazing to you know to be able to enable so many of our citizens in India with the banking ability. So like these, Rohit, there are a few of those I'm fortunate to be part of, which is very fulfilling.
Wow, that's really interesting. I have a funny question here. What do you call user experience in Kannada?
It's a great question. Let me think about it and come back.
Okay, so
I'm embarrassed that I actually don't have an answer right away for you. I,
I just thought
yeah,
I was wondering this, that how would it have been an experience for you to say that, okay, we do user experience and express that in a local language. But yeah, I think that is really interesting to see that how large companies, in fact IBM is a global multinational company, but how we're going out there and creating products that are locally relevant to the audience, and I think that's a very, very
yeah,
interesting perspective. Another thing that I had, Sudhindra, while going through one of your articles, designing the design culture is its heading, and I came across a line which said that when there is no clarity, the design provides clarity. Can you talk to us more about this, and tell what do you exactly mean by this?
yeah. And thank you so much for going through the article, and it means a lot to me. Thanks for sharing lines, and I look forward to your feedback as well. What I meant there was, where does design thrive? You know, designed methods are designed to work in ambiguous and chaotic situations. That's where it thrives. That's when you use design for maximum impact. Design is rigor. It is about being able to put through your heart and soul and go through the paces that is needed, the hard yards, to actually get through the kind of research that you do, and the ability to see things from different angles, different perspectives. That's what makes the value of design so high. And when you do that in this kind of a situation which is ambiguous or chaotic, that is when you start to you can only glean that insights. You can actually pick up that points of clarity when you do all of these things. And design is built in that way. Design, as I said, is a it brings a great mix of instinct and intelligence. It is about what you know internally inside of you, your own expertise and experience, and what you can bring from outside as well, the intelligence that you can bring from the world outside. And that is what is design, right? And when you do that, you start to see clarity that comes out of in these situations, that is much needed in these situations. And that's what you see happening in when you are redesigning a brand, for example. You really don't know if it works or not, so you use these design principles when there is a merger, when there is a new function that needs to be established, when there is a new product that you want to be launched. All of these are situations which are not which can go either way, right? Anyway, it can be successful, it need not be, all of that stuff. You don't know the markets, you don't know the geography, the cultures. Those are the places where design, with its mix of instinct and intelligence, it being rigorous, it can help you bring that clarity. That's what I actually meant there.
Wow, interesting. I mean, it's a very well written, structured article, and to our listeners, you should definitely go and read this. It's something which is very well expressed. So, Sudhindra, One of the other interesting things is when we talk about IBM iX, there's so many interesting projects that are developed. Some of these include Fortis Healthcare, Hyundai Heavy Industries. You've got BNSF Railways. You spoke about, to banks. The question that I have is, how do you develop this multi-domain understanding approach? I mean, a bank is very different than a railways and a heavy industry and a healthcare organization. How do you build understanding in all these domains?
Yeah, you are so spot on, right? IBM that way works with all of these different industries, and the company has been around for 100 plus years, right? We've been reinventing, all the time, and in during that process, we've had some deep expertise in all of these different industries. I have the access to some of the most reputed and renowned people who represent their industries and domains. Be it banking, be it healthcare, they all work in IBM and in different parts of IBM, and I have access to them. So the way we develop this multi-domain understanding is by a combination of all of these approaches, by getting them into our mix. So if you want to redesign an airport experience, you're going to speak to people who have that experience before. You're going to speak to technologists who have worked on the various aspects that you need in airport, the baggage carousels, the security systems, and all of that stuff. So you have access to all of them, and we have been doing this for such a long time that we have a knowledge base that is unparalleled in the world. So I'm fortunate and glad that I have access to them, and we call them in when we are doing this kind of thinking and this kind of work. What we bring to the table is a fresh approach. As designers, we are not biased by some of the past as well. So we bring in a fresh approach. Our technologists brings in the possibilities, and these domain experts bring in the various perspectives that are relevant, the deep knowledge that is relevant. So when you combine all of them, you have a great breakthrough outcome, as we call it, coming out of it. So that's the way we work.
Sudhindra, well expressed. I mean, when you mentioned about the way you work, the question that I have is, every company works hard to develop a unique culture, processes, and habits that drive their success. What I wish to know is, what makes IBM more creatively competitive?
IBM's culture has gone through 100 plus years of a journey. We stand for being essential in the world, on this planet, in the societies and the geographies that we serve, and so on and so forth. So that's the culture. So the fact that IBM has been doing this for over a century is testimony to the very fact that you need a strong culture in a business. The design itself came about in about 66 when the visionary leader Thomas Watson Jr. proclaimed in a memo that good design is good business. This was back in 1966 to all his senior most leaders. So we've been fortunate enough to be with the world of design for that time, from that time. And we've come up with some really, really innovative pieces of work, trendsetters that have moved the world forward. And that's what we stand for even today. Cutting to 2012, 2013, when we started using the design thinking methodology slash framework into all that we do, there is another momentous thing that happened in IBM where we made it a conscious intervention in all of our stuff that we do. The design thinking approach that we take today, it permeates the HR world, the learning world, the procurement, you name it. Even redefinition of the organization constructs, the units of organization, all of that uses the design thinking approach. Now, to make that happen, it has taken a few years to do that. But to make that happen, in such a large organization is amazing, and that's the culture that we have today. The kind of stuff that we do to connect the dots between different kinds of people that are there, different stakeholders, different experts, and that is what keeps IBM competitive and creatively competitive, as you call it, and on the top of the game. We have defined career paths for designers. We have given a lot of focus on the kind of work that we do, in be it in IBMIX or in the overall IBM design that we have. So we've given a lot of focus on what we do. We've given importance to the human centeredness of things, and we've always brought in new ways of working, new facets of design, be it service design, speculative design, all of that. We have brought in all of that concepts as and when they evolve. The DevOps is a big one that IBM has been endorsing and advocating for a while now. So all these different aspects, especially in the design side I'm talking about, uh, means that you're constantly evolving, and that's our culture as well, right? To be able to evolve and to be remaining essential in that, all that we do. That's what I believe makes IBM on the top of the game and ahead of the curve.
Hey, did you know IBM iX has been announced as Adobe Digital Experience Delivery Quality Solution Partner of the year 2020 in the EMEA, that's Europe, the Middle East, and Africa region, for their deep expertise and excellent partnership with Adobe. Wow, interesting. I think there's one feat which is very very challenging to achieve in the world of business, but if you are able to do it successfully, I think it really works well. So talking about the space, Sudhindra, that you operate in, we are living in a time when our digital and physical experiences seamlessly blur into one. And user experience designers are playing a critical role in shaping the connection between them while addressing the positive and negative side effects that may perpetuate. My question is how to design for this multiverse of interconnected products. What's your view on that?
It's a sort of a loaded kind of question, right? So that is why we exist as designers, to be able to take on all of these different challenges. Those challenges are becoming apparent as we go through life as well. What was not a challenge a few years ago has now become a challenge. We always thought Facebook was such a great thing to have, which connects people and so on. But today we see the problem with it as well. It creates this false sense of progress and in people, that they probably don't even understand that they are just craving for likes. There was this beautiful quote I saw somewhere. uh, a few years ago, maybe 20 years ago, 30 years ago, people wanted to be space scientists and astronauts. Whereas today, the ambition of the youngsters is to get as many likes as they can get on Facebook. So we have kind of diluted the whole thinking through all of these things. So the negative side effects you were talking about, there you go. Those are the ones that is going on. Now, that is what is the challenge for designers, right? So to be able to address it, we have to understand and really look at what exactly is the role of technology, especially when these technologies happen that blend the digital and physical experiences. The role of technology is to extend people's reach. They're like tools that extend human reach. Before you invented or came up with a stick, people used to climb up the trees to pull down the fruits. But once the stick came in, you were able to reach the fruits from the ground, right? That's what it is. When the wheel also, a great technology, a great tool that came about, what did it do? It allowed us to reach places faster, and those places you've never reached before. So it extended a human reach. That's the role of technology. And when we understand the very fundamental aspect of it, you can now understand what are those things that people are craving for. The reach, what is that they're looking to reach? What is the need that they have, when you kind of understand that and then use technology to actually solve that problem, while remaining completely rooted in exactly what the welfare of people, then we are able to create the right design for the multiverse of interconnected products, as you rightly called it. It is today we live in a world which is beautifully connected, which means that you got to look at all of those angles which you never saw before. So the responsibility is much higher. So are we ready to take that responsibility? And that is what I think we need to start doing. We got to get our voices clearly taken through the worlds of businesses where they're making these decisions. So when we do that, I think we are able to get to the bottom of designing the right thing for these interconnected products.
Well, that's so beautifully expressed. And, taking a cue from, what you just said, you spoke about the wheel, you spoke about the stick. In fact, in my point of view, everything around us has been designed in some way. And all design ultimately produces an emotion out there. We experience an emotional reaction to our environment moment by moment, like or dislike, joy, frustration. We feel it. And how can designers add an emotional effect on the user while they are designing usable and functional products? I would like you to share your views on this one.
A great question. When there is good design, you just know it, you just feel it. That's what the role of good design is, right? Around you. When you have an Apple phone, you feel good when you have it around you. It does its things beautifully. So that's what the role of the emotional aspect of design is. It just makes you feel so good. But the feel part of it is quite deep, and that is why the tools that we have allows us to look all of these different aspects of what is meant by liking, and what is meant by joy, and how does that differ from one person to another, how does it differ from one culture to another. So you look at all of that stuff, and then you start to create delight in design. So today, it is not enough to actually create usable products or functional products anymore. You got to create aesthetically pleasing but also emotionally aligned kind of products that align with you, especially in these conversational interfaces that you get to, right? So um, you can use the psychology. So what we do to create that is psychology based design. I'll give you an example. I was working on a credit card work a few years ago, me and my teammate, my partner. So we're working on something, and we had an opportunity to recommend them various kinds of credit cards, right? So we could say, hey, what's your spending, what is it that you will do, and so on and so forth. How do you want to use it, what are the benefits you want. You can have those transactional questions. On the other hand, you could also have conversational questions, like, if I was a credit card expert, what would I ask my user? I would say, hey, what's your lifestyle like? Let me know what's your lifestyle like. Let me know what are the things that you really like and what you don't like, and so on. So a completely different conversational way of approach is what we took, right? For that gave the delight to the user, because it was not about transactions anymore. It was about actually reaching to the deepest parts of the user. Now, that's what you need to do here as well. In every aspect, whatever we try to do, you got to go to the deepest aspects of why people do what they do, and what are the aspects of delight. In the whole journey mapping, we have a concept called moments that matter, and in those moments that matter, you pick out those which give joy and delight to people, and that is what you build out. And therefore, the whole concept of MVP, we don't use the MVP concept, the minimum viable product. We use a concept of MDE, called the minimum delightful experience. What can you give as delightful experience? You kind of take that, and then you develop that minimum delightful experience. So those are all the different aspects that go into providing this emotional alignment, as I may call it. Mark Hasenzahl speaks beautifully about how you can create an experience which is emotionally fulfilling, and he has got some beautiful, notes about that. And that's something that I've been inspired by.
Wow, interesting. In fact, one of the aspects that you mentioned, you were talking about credit card and various products, and in this world of new technologies, which is very exciting. The issue is that we fall short if they don't address human needs and enhance a user experience. The question that I have is, how can designers make sure that they focus on creating human centered experiences in the face of these new technologies?
In the phase, so the technologies are always evolving, right? So you can it's been going on for a while. It's just going rapidly now than ever before. The whole focus of us should be to forecast the future. So concepts such as speculative design, I spoke about the models of speculative design that combines the futures thinking as well as design thinking. Those are the things that one can use, where you can say what is your preferred future that you want, not just what will happen, but what should happen, right? So that's the power or responsibility that a designer carries. One of the most inspiring quotes that I have come across and that guides me even today is what Tim Brown said in one of his talks. He said, "Designers create worlds that that doesn't exist yet. They create a world that doesn't exist. So it is only in their head, and that is a great responsibility to have. And that world is full of these new technologies. Now, technologies shouldn't really bother you. What should bother you is what is going to happen with it. And being responsible for it. I'm a big fan of responsible design and evangelizing it. So what does it mean to be responsible in this world, and what is it that you can do when you're creating these preferred futures? So that when we have that concept in our mind, when we have it at the back of our mind all the time, we will be able to, I think, do justice to all of these technologies that is coming up, and it is rapidly changing every day. There is something new, and there is something you need to be ready with. So you got to be on top of all of those things.
Interesting. And that, Sudhindra, brings me to our last question on our show. While we understood some of these elements, we coined this term at Avantika University called as designeering, which is the base ideology that we follow in terms of, coaching our students, uh, a blended approach of the world of design and engineering. I see that at IBMIX, you follow the same philosophy. Do you think that the next decade and more times to come ahead, this blended approach is where a very interesting action point lies in future? What's your view on that?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. So, see, when we say design, the whole point is about action. So, design is doing as well, right? It is as important to do as it is to think. It's a lot of doing, right? Empathy alone, if it does not combine with the prototyping, it does not do much. It's about doing. So I am, completely aligned with this thought. So this blended approach, where in fact in our own design thinking approach also we call it the observe, reflect, and make. You observe, then you think about what's going on, you reflect upon it, you kind of connect all of those dots, and then you make. You give life to those ideas, and then you go back again, observe, reflect, and make. That's the loop, design thinking loop that we propose in IBM as well. So it is absolutely the doing part that combines with the thinking part that makes a lot of difference. And we do it all the time in the work that we do, when we want to give, when we're working with our clients, when we want to show them how we are thinking about it, we actually create stuff and show to them. We make stuff. That is the best way. In fact, we have a lot of maker spaces within our studios as well, all of that goes back to the importance of doing, and that's really at the heart of what we do. It's the thought plus action. That's the design philosophy.
Wow, this has been a really interesting conversation, Sudhindra. So many interesting perspective in terms of connecting the dots, in terms of new concepts in the world of design, and where things are moving to talking about how do we use delight as a concept, to serve our customers. It was a pleasure hosting you on our show, Sudhindra. Thank you so much for doing this conversation with us.
Hey, thank you so much, Rohit, and thanks for getting me on this. I'm very glad that I'm here sharing my thoughts, and I enjoyed the conversation with you. And I wish yourself and Avantika University all the very best in whatever you're doing.
Thank you.
Hey there, we hope you enjoyed our show. Do write to us on ads@avantika.edu.in. We look forward to your opinions, feedbacks, and suggestions of speakers you would like us to host on this show. Do tune in our channel next week on Wednesday for a new story on Hubhopper or wherever you get your podcast from. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter.